Will Dave Allen show up and perform against Arslanbek Makhmudov? Or are we going to end up with a situation that we've had with Dave many times before? He makes that step up to the top level, and for some reason, he doesn't let his hands go, and he just doesn't perform. He freezes on the big stage. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at why Dave hasn't performed in the past when he's entered the ring on the biggest stage, paying particular attention to a fight against a British rival that some of you will certainly remember, before assessing just how different things might be this time around. Are we going to see a devastating performance from the White Rhino in the ring, or is he going to allow himself to go in there and get beaten up? I'm going to be trying to answer that question and making my final prediction for this fight in this video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. I hope you're doing incredibly well. Now, in doing this video, I'm also going to be making my final prediction for this fight. And I got this quite hilarious comment on my Fabio Wardley Justasuni tactical breakdown. And I am on a pretty good run of predictions right now. Actually, I've gone and checked my record for 2025. And I am at 82.4% accuracy for predicting these fights correctly, which isn't bad. So let's see if I can predict this fight with accuracy. Let's see how I go with this one. Now, in my last video about this fight, I looked at the tactical makeup of it. I looked at why I think Dave Allen chose Arslanbek Makhmudov as an opponent. And whilst you'll see that I'm clearly favoring Dave Allen from a tactical perspective in this one, I really believe that Arslanbek Makhmudov is made for a Dave Allen that can go in there and execute on what I think he should be able to do. The big question that always remains with Dave is, will he actually go in there and do it? I said in my intro, we've been here many times before with Dave Allen, and there's one fight in particular that stands out to me that I want to study in this video to work out what exactly went wrong for him that night. And it's the fight when he took on British heavyweight rival David Price. Now, David Price had been an Olympian and a very good boxer indeed. He was seen as being destined for big things. He had higher prospects in the minds of the media than Tyson Fury for a very long period of time. But the big problem with David Price was that he simply did not have a chin. He kept getting hit by heavyweights and he kept getting knocked out. He was a good boxer and a big puncher nonetheless, but every time David Price got in the ring with someone that could whack, that could land on his chin, he went to sleep. Now, the run-up to David Price is somewhat reminiscent to the run that he's on now, just before he faces Arslanbek Makhmudov. He'd had a bit of a war against a fighter called Bracamonte, who some of you won't know of, but if you listen to Dave enough, you'll be aware of the fight that they had. He then got in the ring with former WBA regular heavyweight champion Lucas Brown and took him out with that stunning body shot, headlining at the O2. And, basically making a bit of a name for himself, Dave Allen. That was the moment where I think people sort of thought, oh, this guy does actually have something about him. He's maybe not a world beater, he's maybe not an elite heavyweight, but he's got ability when he gets it right. And this led him into the David Price fight, and he had momentum going into this fight. He was on a run of a few wins, and coming off the back of the best win of his career, it seemed like he had a great chance. But then he got in the ring with David Price, and that was one of the worst beatings I've seen in a boxing ring, to be honest with you. It was an absolutely tragic fight where I genuinely thought that Dave Allen had a very good chance of winning. He got in there and the narrative, at least looking back on it, was that he didn't seem to perform. But I went back and rewatched the fight, and it was actually very interesting to watch. The reason I have been inspired to make this video is because the fact of this fight for me is it does hinge on whether or not Dave Allen can go in there and do what he needs to do. I do think that Makhmudov's style is suited to the way that Dave Allen likes to box, but it really does come down to whether or not he shows up on the night. And it was all triggered by a Hatman live stream that I was on earlier where they were talking about Dave Allen's inability to let his hands go. He seemingly, to Hatman's mind, has a psychological block. And I do think that it was on display in this fight against David Price. It's interesting because watching the fight back in the first couple of rounds, Dave actually did let his hands go to an extent, but he was getting hit with so many shots that as the fight wore on, they started to take their toll. He just ate too many clean punches to the head. And Dave left this fight with a concussion, a double concussion to his spine. In the ambulance, he couldn't feel his limbs, and it was a very, very scary affair that massively put him off boxing, that saw him retire and disappear for a couple of years, all before making this comeback now that he's gone on this little run where he's had a few fights he had to pay for himself. The double back-to-back fights with Johnny Fisher, where the first fight he won and didn't get the decision, the second one where he came even fitter and went in there and absolutely took Johnny Fisher out. He now finds himself in this fight with Makhmudov. So the parallels are there. You can see why this is similar. Dave's taking that step up again, and people are asking that question, will he step up to the plate now that he's in the ring with a significant threat? And a really interesting point that Hatman made in his video was about how Dave Allen's been in better shape in the past. There's been times when he's trained, when he's had a borderline having a six-pack and he's still lost and got beaten up. He cited the Dillian White fight, and indeed in this fight against David Price, he looked in much better shape and weighed 241 pounds when he got in the ring. That is versus the 265 he just weighed in the Fisher rematch. And so Hatman's point sort of was, look, If Dave Allen's actually been training and actually got in shape this time, well, what difference will that make when he was actually training and actually in shape before? And I suppose that I want to explain to people that looks can be deceiving, that context is everything, and sometimes a healthy looking body isn't actually a healthy body, isn't actually a well-conditioned, well-trained body, isn't a well-nourished body. And on the surface, people can seem like mentally they're okay, but with Dave Allen in the past, mentally he has been all over the shop. And I'm going to let the man himself explain it in his own words, what happened in that David Price fight.
I was really starting to feel it. I've been training now for like 10 weeks, full pelt, and been to New York, and I'm knackered, to be honest. I've overdone it. I was done. My body was. It sounds mad, but I've been training hard. It done me, to be honest. Mentally, I'm all over the place. And I said to Barker, mate, I'm going home, and I'm not coming back. So he said, look, give me a ring tomorrow. You'll be all right. Just go back home and have a rest, and like, you'll be fine. You fit as a fiddle, which I was. So I go back home, and I don't think I returned back to London for 2 weeks. I think I stayed at home, just plodding on, speaking to Barker. Yeah, I'm running on doing this. I was only leaving the house to train Danny at the time. I weren't doing out. I was miserable. I'm in the house. Just bought an house. It's empty. I'm just laying on the floor all day. I was having one meal a day to keep my weight down. Obviously now I know in hindsight, ridiculous. I'm having fish and chips every day from Seafish. It was lovely. I was Fruit Loop, to be honest, and yeah, just crazy really. I refused to go to London. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm not doing that. I'm having one meal a day, and the whole time David Price is training like a lunatic. So I look in tremendous shape. I'm still half fit. Don't get me wrong. I'm still half fit. I'm looking really well because I'm light, because I'm not eating anything. Done the public workout, felt alright. I'm not thinking I'm not eating anything. I'm just thinking I'm light. I'm thinking if my weight's low, I'm fit. The weighing comes around and I've weighed 17.3. I'm quite happy. I'm thinking, wow, I'm light, I'm sharp. Again, I'm not eating much, keeping that weight down. I used to cut weight to get on the scales for some reason. So yeah, I'm feeling all right. And the day of the fight, I think everything just hit me really. And yeah, by the time I got to the venue, I'm terrified. And I really didn't want to be there, to be honest. Really didn't want to be there. If I could have pulled out, I would have.
So you can hear there that the build-up was far from ideal. He'd absolutely, to a degree, lost the plot, if you will. He described himself as an absolute Fruit Loop. You can hear he's not training properly for weeks before the fight. And even though he'd lost a lot of weight, he was light. He said himself, lighter is better in my mind. He wasn't energized. He wasn't nourished. While he looked good, he didn't have what he should have had. It was like a Ferrari with no engine under the bonnet. Now, in terms of what he felt wrong from a tactical strategic point, he also talks about that.
I got it wrong. I should have been heavy when I boxed him. I should have made it ugly. I tried to outbox him. I bought into everyone saying that I couldn't box. I could only bully him and break him down, and I had it made I was going to outbox him. And I'm going to be light. I'm not going to eat anything. I can lose loads of weight, and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. When in hindsight, really, I should have trained really fucking hard. I should have ate healthy, and I should have done whatever it took to beat him. But that's hindsight, and that's experience.
And I think it's very interesting that he mentioned weight there as a factor, that he would want to come in heavier against Price if he had that chance again, that he would have wanted to get on his chest, not box him, but maul him and do what he needed to do to win the fight. So with the lessons that we've learned from what went wrong in that Price fight, what is different about this Makhmudov fight, about this Dave Allen going into this Makhmudov fight? I'm going to start with the fact that Dave is now a family man with kids. I think that fundamentally underpins Dave and why I think he's different now. Because ultimately, when we talk about change and what proves change, usually something has to happen that makes someone genuinely different. It doesn't tend to just happen out of nowhere. Sometimes you get people where the penny just drops one day, they want to be different, but for most people, there's something that happens that makes them change. And for Dave, I think it's been having a family. And I have a bit of an insight into Dave's psychology that some people might not have picked up on. And that is that I believe he's at his best when he's doing things for other people. He is motivated by doing things for other people. He doesn't really seem to be someone who holds himself in the highest regard, and so I think he struggles to do things that are good for him. And this has been evidenced by the fact that over the years, Dave has put a lot of time into managing and training other pros. I remember when I met Dave, when I worked with him and made a mini documentary with him, he was spending thousands and thousands of pounds with Danny Morrell and Liam Carrigan, and, great lads that Dave absolutely loved having around him, that he'd kind of taken from nowhere, from obscurity, and was just trying to make things happen for these guys. And he put so much time and effort into training them, as I say, so many financial resources, that he was losing out big time, but he did it because he liked them and because he wanted to help them. And I think this is the psychology of Dave Allen. So my point here is that if genuine change was to have happened for Dave, something had to change about his situation, and that was having kids, because now he's doing everything for his kids. And I really believe he's fully motivated by them and by giving them a better life than what he would say he's had. So how does that manifest in how he actually prepares and has prepared, in my opinion and in my belief, for this fight? Well, the first thing is weight. And we'll talk about what's behind that weight. Is this a healthy weight or an unhealthy weight? But look, he said he's going to be 18 stone 7 by the time he gets in the ring. He said he's not going to look that different from the Johnny Fisher fight, but he will be fitter and he will be a bit lighter, because he admitted that while he was fit for the Fisher fight, he was a bit too heavy. And he said for the first time ever in his career, his diet is now under control. And I've got a little anecdote for you here, a little story. I remember J. Carrigan McFarlane, who was a Scottish heavyweight who was training under Dave at the time I filmed that documentary, describing Dave's diet. And he said to me, "You would not believe how this guy eats." He said he takes a saurine malt loaf, which is like this kind of cake, essentially. It's like a loaf of cake with raisins and sugar and all sorts of stuff in it. And he has that with a burger. That is how Dave eats. And and that's like, that was just one example at the time that came from, someone that was around him as to how bad his diet was. And Dave, I think, has not had a clue up to this point how to do his diet. I still don't know if he has a clue, but luckily for him, he trains a young fighter called Joe Hayden. And Joe Hayden is actually pretty massive for his weight. And Joe is someone who is in great shape and very clearly understands diet and nutrition. So while Dave's been away on this camp, which is also something he struggled with, is to stay away on camps for the full duration, as we heard in the Champney story, he's been living with Joe, and he said to Joe, "Please, can you take care of my diet and nutrition for this fight? I've got to get it right." And so that's what they've been doing. And so yes, he's still much heavier than he was against David Price coming into this fight, but he's well fueled and he's trained properly. And the other thing that he said about that Price fight that he regretted was that he didn't go in there, he didn't make it a war, he tried to box him too much, he probably would have wanted to stay on the inside and be a bit more mauling, a bit more marauding, and I think that extra weight would have made sense to do that. And clearly, he's learned from his mistakes there. That's clearly what he's doing here. He's coming in heavier, and he's coming in with the will to win no matter what, as he described it. That's what I think. I genuinely believe he's going to go in there. As Simon Jordan likes to say, this expression, swallow it. I don't think he's going to swallow it. I don't think there's any chance of that. Now, similarly to the Lucas Brown fight, he's coming off a win, a significant win. And in the Lucas Brown fight, as ever in his career, he did struggle to let his hands go, to get his shots going. But I think for me, it was the way he finished that Johnny Fisher fight. It was something I'd never seen from Dave before. And it was something that not a lot of heavyweights can do. And he was punching in combination. The punch combination sequence that he used to finish Johnny Fisher was absolutely spectacular. Throwing singles it doesn't require as much bravery as throwing a 4 or 5 punch combination. I'm not saying he should always do that. But at the same time, I really think the belief it will have given him to know, if I do let my hands go, I go up and down, I put my shots together, I can really take someone out. I can really hurt them. The other big factor here is that I mentioned my tactical breakdown, my tactical analysis. And there was a couple of sequences that I thought that Dave would really benefit from that I'd seen in Makhmudov against Kabayel and Makhmudov against Vianello. There was 2 punch sequences in particular I noticed him doing, and I've seen Dave in pads in one of the highlight videos, and Dave said that they've been practicing certain punch sequences, and I do believe that I spotted in that training sequence the punch sequences that I think will work against Makhmudov. Now, I might be very wrong here, but that's what I saw in the video, and that is what I hope they actually were practicing for. It did say in the video that they were practicing, like it was technical training that they were doing, so it would make sense. But also, I don't know why you would let people see that behind the scenes. At the same time, it just so happens they were 2 of the main combinations that I thought would really work for Dave in this fight. And I know that Jamie Moore does film study because he's told me that he has, so I know that he would have seen the things that I likely saw. The final point I want to make here is that David Price's style was horrible for Dave Allen in that fight. And David Price was actually a very underrated boxer. He had decent movement and he used his lead hand exceptionally well. One thing I will say about Makhmudov, he is not David Price. And Makhmudov absolutely cannot execute the tactics, in my opinion, that David Price used. Makhmudov doesn't have a very good lead hand. He overcommits with so many punches. I've shown you this in my tactical analysis, but he definitely neglects the jab. And even when he does use his shots, when he does move his feet are incredibly plodding and clumsy. So like I said, the question for me really is just whether or not Dave Allen actually shows up in the ring. Because for me, with what Dave Allen has, with the attributes he has, and the way that Makhmudov boxes, And also the fact that Dave Allen, and I don't want to underestimate how significant I think this might be, actually chose this opponent. I can't remember the last time Dave Allen actually got to choose an opponent. Normally, he's the away fighter. He's being chucked in with someone and he's not fit and he's been messing around and mentally he's been all over the place. We all know about his gambling issues as he's talked about them extensively. I think this is the mentally healthiest Dave Allen we've ever seen. I think this is probably the most nourished and fittest Dave Allen that we've ever seen. Yes, he's a bit heavier, but that extra size I think will be part of a strategy. My one concern is that Dave Allen, will have to move at times to make himself safe, and he is going to have to engage because he doesn't have the best legs. He isn't super fleet of foot like the other guys that have managed to beat Makhmudov. But at the end of the day, I'll say this about Makhmudov. I don't think he's that great. I think he's overrated. And his best win is against a 41-year-old Carlos Takam, and that was a few years ago now. So I really think Dave can win this fight, and I am predicting Dave to win this fight. I'm predicting Dave to win this fight by knockout. I could be wrong. That's the point of these things. They're a best guess, but that's what I think is going to happen in this fight. Guys, I hope you've all enjoyed this video. Get your comments in the comments section below. Let me know who you think is going to win this fight. It's the time to make your prediction right now. Nail your colors to the mast, and then you can say to everyone, I told you so when you get it right, or you can come back here and eat your crow if you get it wrong. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'll definitely be doing a live stream for this one, and hopefully we'll pass 20K on that live stream. That would be very fun. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as I always say, on to the next one.